Have you ever wondered what it really is like to feel your heart to shatter in 1,000 pieces? I only found out when life decided to teach me a cruel class. It's like being under a storm, soaked to the soul, while looking through the window of a restaurant and sees the man with whom he shared 8 years of life, nights, mornings, dreams, and even the last slice of pizza in the fridge kissing another woman with a passion that swore to be his own. It is the feeling of having the lungs collapsing while the world continues to breathe indifferently. It is dying inside and yet being forced to smile, work, pretend that everything is fine, as if the pain is not devouring you alive. That Wednesday, I should not have discovered anything. It was just another exhaustive week as director of a pharmacist, drowned in meetings and goals. But life, as always, has a wicked mood. Another night at the office, call, important meeting with customers. Don't wait, go to sleep, wrote Mikhail, the same message he had already sent 3 times that month. The same meeting that coincidentally demanded his luxury watch, the one I gave him on the wedding anniversary, and his expensive perfume. I believed him, until Carol, of accounting, unintentionally, sent me confirmation of a business dinner on Thursday, just the day Mikhail was allegedly traveling at work. A lie, only one, but it was enough to overthrow the castle of letters that was our confidence. The next day, I hired a detective. It may seem cliche, but it was necessary. In a week, I had everything: name, face, life. Victoria Volkova, 32, Biofarm Marketing Director, our direct competitor. By the way, photos of dinners and candlelight, park tours, hotels visits, even an audio recording, which I didn't have the courage to listen to the end. Some ones are better left alone, but it was an image that froze my blood. Victoria opening a box, a gift that I recognized instantly. The Mercury bracelet, the one I had seen in the history of Mikhail's browser a month earlier, the same as he would supposedly buy for me on our birthday. I laughed until crying. Then I just cried. Detective also mentioned a big event on Friday, Victoria's birthday at Pushkin, that French chic restaurant in the center, where I had suggested we go, but that he discarded very expensive and pretentious. It was already going to close the notebook when an email with extra information arrived. Victoria's mother's phone number, taken from her emergency record at the gym. It may be helpful, wrote the detective. The word secret hammered my head like a nail. I looked at those numbers, and something inside me changed. The tears dried up. In place of the storm that consumed me weeks ago, came a cold silence, a calm that was not peace but strategy. When I called, my voice was firm, almost strange. Good night, Natalia Yurievna Volkova. I'm Milena. You don't know me, but I need to talk about your daughter, Victoria. The following conversation became my world upside down. They had no idea of Mikhail. They didn't know that their daughter raved with a married man. They thought he, the chief of Victoria, was newly divorced and in love of a person. Nadala even thanked me for the warning. We're strange because Victoria hid so much that relationship. We'll surprise her on Friday, her birthday. We've planned everything for months, said euphoric. The mother, the brothers, Dennis and Dmitri would also be there. I felt something new sprout on my chest. It was not pain. It was not anger. It was something cold, calculating, a version of me that I didn't know. What a coincidence, he said, with a calm that scared me. I also planned a surprise for them at dinner. After all, Victoria is so important to Mikhail's life. Maybe we can combine something. When I hung up, I saw myself in the mirror of the room. Not recent I spent the woman who stared at me. The eyes were different, hard, determined. Mikhail arrived late, smelling of the perfume of others and lies. He kissed my forehead, asked if I had dinner. Yes, I said, smiling. By the way, I've organized something special for Friday. His face froze for a second, but soon he recomposed himself with the usual mask. Friday? Dear, I have a business dinner. Remember, Ekaterinburg customers are in town. I spoke last week. I nodded, as they understood. Ah, of course, work always first. He went to the bath, relieved, already taking his cell phone to probably warn the bunny. That once again escaped his boring wife. I had no idea that the Friday would be special. Just not the way I imagined it. The worst of betrayal is not pain. It is the forced review of its entire history. Each memory becomes a shadow of doubt. Each I love you, a potential lie. The night he proposed to me on Sochi Beach, did he rehearse those words with another before? Our wedding, I rolled old albums, looking for signs that I ignored, clues that should have warned me. The insomnia nights that started 3 years ago. Business trips without proof. The password of the mobile phone changed out of nowhere, for security. New clothes. Luxury gym. All those cliches that every betrayed woman only sees when it's too late. But what hurt most was to realize as Mikhail, just when the case began, He began to undermine me, comments on my excessive professional ambitions, questions if I was not being paranoid with my suspicions. "You've never been so sticky," he said, when I asked where I was. "This is not beautiful, Elena." And I apologized, tried to be less oppressive. I even went to a psychologist to work on my insecurities as he built a parallel life with Victoria. On Thursday, the eve of the big day, I couldn't sleep. I ended up in what I always avoided, Victoria's profile on the networks. A successful polished showcase and adventures. Pictures of travel to places that Mikhail and I couldn't play. Designer clothes. Motivational phrases about catching life with both hands. And there, at the bottom of some carefully cut photos, the shoulder, the clock, the back of the man with whom I shared 8 years. I gave him my youth, my confidence, my future. And he exchanged everything for a cheap version of happiness as he convinced me that I was crazy. Gay or dead. The same one he swore to worship but never used it because he didn't match his professional style. As if his style weren't, for years, a carefully sewn mask to hide the man who really was. I saw him laugh. His white teeth grazes under the yellow light of the lamp while she touched her arm with an intimacy that was once mine. The hand that once held mine in the hospital when I signed loan papers to save your business. The same hand that now caressed the fingers of another, as if I had never existed. I took a deep breath. The air burned, as if my body already knew what my mind was still trying to soothe. The thought machine gun turned. Are they laughing at me? Did he kiss her on this table? How many times have lied in recent months? But no, it was not time for doubt. It was time for action. Ready? He repeated the mater, already with his hand on the door handle that separated us from the happy couple. In the fraction of a second before pushing it, I looked at Svetlana's, sitting at the bar counter with a martini that probably didn't drink. She lifted the cup in a silent toast, her eyes shining with a mixture of fear and admiration. "You can," said that gesture. "Or maybe you're crazy. Maybe both." The door opened. Surprise! Exclamation! The voice choir exploded in the hall. Balloons burst, confetti flew, and in the center of the storm, the Coria took his hands to his face. His eyes shot giggles. "Not because you see the family, but for seeing me there, in a blood-red dress, smiling like a panther about to show the claws there. Natalia, you even ran to hug me, while the Vickery brothers exchanged confused looks. You are an angel." Organize all this without her suspicion! Exclamation! Mikhail got up so fast that the chair gritted. His face was a disguised panic study, the tense jaw, his eyes jumping between me, Vickery, an emergency exit. For a second, I saw the cold calculation behind that look. How to get out of this, how to control me, before the charming executive mask returned to the place there. "Honey." Her voice was mellow, false as the promises she made me on the altar. "What a surprise! I didn't know you and the Vickery family." They knew each other. Vickery, finally recovering his speech, tried a trembling smile. "Misha, you didn't tell me that your wife was so close to my parents." "Next," I repeated, as tasting the word. "Oh, Vika, we are much more than that." I turned to Natalia Yurevna, still with my arm around my shoulders. "You didn't mention that your daughter was dating my husband." The silence that followed was so dense that you can cut with a dessert knife of the menu. Vickery brothers straightened the soldier's information. Petr Nikolaevich swallowed hard, the vein in his throbbing temple. And Mikhail, for the first time in years, he didn't have a script. There was no ready-made lie. I was only afraid. What? Victoria laughed nervously, as if it was all a misunderstanding. "Misha, explain to them that you don't have to explain." "Dushenka," I interrupted, using the nickname he reserved for her in the audios I heard forcibly. "They already know. Everyone knows." I opened the bag and took the cell phone. With a touch, the screen lit. Their face frozen in a picture taken 3 weeks ago in our bed. Even Marriott's employees no, judging by the proof of stay that arrived in my email. The color disappeared from the face of Victoria. Mikhail advanced a step, his extended hand as if he could pull the phone from me. For God's sake, don't do that." "Don't do what?" I asked, sweet as poison. "Expose the truth, or ruin the birthday party you paid for the money I made while you pretended to work late." Natalia Yurevna released a moan, as if she had punched her stomach. "One of the brothers, Dmitri, I think." Mikhail held his collar before he could approach. "You're a son of a bitch." He spit, the low and lethal voice. "Wait." Vickery tried to intervene, the tears dripping through the impeccable makeup. "We were going to tell. We were just waiting for the right time!" Exclamation! The right moment. I laughed, tall and clear, a sound that hasn't left my throat for months. "How when I signed the divorce papers? Or after you, honey, inherit the apartment I paid with my economist." Mikhail tried to speak, but the words were lost in the followed chaos. Petr Nikolaevich shouted something about shame in the family. Svetlana appeared by my side, the cell phone already recording everything proof, she whispered. And I just watched Mikhail's empire of lies to collapse in real time, piece by piece, like a castle of cards under a strong wind. When the restaurant safety tried to drive us out, I turned to Victoria, who cried in his mother's arms. Happy birthday, he said, with a smile that didn't come to the eye. I hope it's worth it. And then, with his head raised and the red dress dragging the floor like a warfare, I left not like the betrayed woman, but as the queens who finally complained her throne. The year had fallen on me like an iron curtain, and there she was, laughing at something he said, with her hair falling exactly as in the edited photos of V Contact. My heart he hit him so strong that I thought it would explode. For a crazy second, I wanted to turn around and go out, choose dignity instead of the show. But then Mikhail leaned and kissed her suits the same way, just as he kissed me one day, and all doubts dissipated as smoke. I touched the shoulder of Natalia Yurievna and whispered, with a calm that I didn't even recognize myself, Colin, allow me to go first. I want to see Mikhail's face when I notice me. She nodded, thinking it was just friendly coordination between women. I took a deep breath and advanced. The red dress reflected every light of the salon. My grandmother's necklace shone around her neck like a warning. Happy birthday, Victoria, I announced, tall and clear. Mikhail's head lifted as if he had shot. Our looks met, and I saw the perfect chaos, confusion, shock, and, above all, pure terror. Victory turned, frowning for the interruption. I still didn't recognize me. We had crossed one or twice in corporate events, nothing but superficial greetings. Sorry, she started, with the forced politeness of those who don't want a scene. And you are his wife, I said, while Victoria's family gathered behind me like a Greek choir about to witness a tragedy. Natalia Yurievna's smile froze. Joy in the air evaporated. What? Your wife for 8 years, I added, this time with enough volume for couples at the neighboring tables to turn their heads. Silence. One of those silences that weigh as lead, which suffocate even before you realize you stop breathing. Victory was still, the glass of champagne suspended halfway to the lips. Mikhail looked like a man before a flap of shooting, his mouth open and closed, but no word came out. An out-of-water fish, choking on their own lies. Wife, repeated Petr Nikolaevich, the now cutting voice like a blade. Her face, before affable, hardened. Mikhail, you told us you were divorced. Divorced recently, Kalia Yurievna corrected, the trembling voice of indignation. The papers were signed last year. You, for exclamation. Mikhail tried to defend himself, but the words were embarrassed in his throat. I can explain. Explain what? Denny's advanced, the low and lethal voice. How did you lie to our sister? For our family, all looks turned to Victoria. And there, in that second, I wanted her to be innocent, that it was just another victim, like me. But his eyes flew to Mikhail in a silent request for help and truth. I asked, pulling the phone from the bag, has you not been in our bed for 2 weeks while I was at the pharmacist for St. Petersburg? Her face whitening even more. I didn't know I knew. I cut, relentless. At least a year ago. Remember that day when you called our landline and I answered? You hung up on time, but first asked, Misha, are you? Memory hit her like a punch. The diners now didn't even bother to disguise. They looked blatantly, some already with their cell phones. Even the waiter stopped, undecided, the tray shaking in his hands. Svetlana approached, discreetly recording everything in truth. Petr Nikolaevich demanded, his voice a thunder. The anger flooded his face. Victoria tried to speak, but only managed to babble. He said they were separated. It was just for appearances. For a rough sound that scratched my own throat. For appearances, I repeated, with bitterness. Like when I worked 60 hours a week to support his business, or when I helped him leave depression last year, while he apparently built a life with you. Mikhail finally found the voice. Desperate. Elena, please, not here. Where then? Misha, I challenge. In our sessions with the couple therapist, where you swore that it was in rediscovering, or in our bed, where did you love me last week? I looked at Victoria. Oh, he told you I hadn't touched me for months, didn't he? Lied again. She released a muffled sob. Her brothers positioned themselves beside her, like guards, looking at Mikhail with pure disgust. You brought him to Dad's birthday dinner, said Dmitri, his voice full of disappointment. Presented to the whole family. For friends. I didn't know, Victoria insisted. But the conviction was already gone. I opened the bag and took a packet of photos, tests, carefully selected by the detective. I extended them on the table like cards in a dirty game. 3 years, he said, pointing to each one. This is the time it lasts. Here, you two at Marriott, April last year. Here, a romantic weekend in St. Petersburg while I took care of my post-surgery mother. And this I put the last one with a dry crack. It's past Christmas Eve, when Mikhail told me he was working late. Natalia Yurievna took the photos. her hands shaking, his face writhed in a horror mask. Victoria Petrovna Volkova, he whispered, as if the full name was a curse. How could you? Her daughter tried to protest, but her mother silenced her with a gesture. We don't create you like that. Mikhail tried to resume control. The trembling voice colon. This is a personal subject, guys. Petr Nikolaevich interrupted him furiously. You made it our subject when you lied to my family. When he sat on my table, he accepted our hospitality and used us as idiots. He turned to me. And when you diverted money from the company to play this novel, I smiled coldly. Marriott's accounts were paid with a corporate card. I explained, flipping through documents I took from the bag. The same one in which it still consists as a financial director. Panic took over Mikhail. He didn't know I had turned each extract, every transfer in recent weeks. This is not just betrayal, I continued, lowering his voice so that only they heard. It is Article 160 of the Russian Penal Code. Misappropriation, or maybe 159 fraud. I'm sure your investors would love to know where their money is going. A small crowd formed around us. Whispers ran through the hall like an electric current. Someone filmed without disguising. You're doing a scandal. Mikhail, he has. His eyes injected with hatred. No, you were staging a piece. Denny's intervened, advancing toward you. 3 years ago, I want you to leave, Victoria suddenly said, the voice broken. Both. Her mother began to protest, but she cut not here. Not now. For a moment, I felt something strange, almost mercy. After all, we were two women destroyed by the same man. I agreed, softly, but before I turned to Mikhail, who febrilely typed something under the table, I pulled the phone out of his hands with a quick movement. Your lawyer can wait, he said, looking at the screen. Mine has already filed the documents. On Monday, you received the subpoena. His face was distorted in a grimace of hatred. You are a vengeful woman. Planned all this. The accusation stopped in the air, exposing it more than any of mine could do. No, Misha, I said, calm down. You planned everything when you decided to lie for the first time. I just finished what you started. I looked at Victoria's family, the weight of visible shame in each of them. I am sorry that they have discovered that, he said, sincere. But to comfort yourself, he lied to you about me the same way he lied to me about you. Petr Nikolaevich nodded. Dark, thanks for your courage, girl. His voice was rough, but grateful. The rest, we solved. Svetlana appeared beside me like a shadow. The car is waiting, he murmured. I gave one last look at the scene. Mikhail, Phil Arield, Victoria, broken, your family, now a wall between them and the world, and the untouched birthday cake. The candles still lit, a perfect symbol of what would never be celebrated. I turned my back and comes out. The red dress dragging the floor like a sentence. Not like the abandoned woman. Like the queen who has just declared war. Happy birthday, Victoria. I repeated, this time without poison in the voice. This time without hatred. I hope that next year you make better choices. When Svetlana and I crossed the door, I heard Pyotr Nikolaevich's hoarse voice echoing through the hall. As for you, Mikhail, we need to talk seriously about your business practices. Outside, the night air hit my face like a scam of freedom. Svetlana squeezed my hand. How are you? I said, sincere. But I'll survive. The phone exploded in notifications. The scene at the restaurant was already trending on local telegram channels. Birthday surprise. Wife exposes traitor in public. I turned off the device. Public recognition could wait. That night was never about viral scandal. It was about truth, consequences, and, above all, that I finally resumed control of my life after years swallowing humiliation. The car moved away from the sidewalk just as I saw Mikhail break through the restaurant door, the red face of despair. He spotted me and ran after the vehicle, shouting something incomprehensible. I didn't turn around. 6 months later, after what social networks baptized the birthday of the century, life found a new rhythm. Not necessarily easier, but clearer. More honest. The divorce was finalized faster than I imagined. Mikhail, facing possible charges of fraud after our public confrontation, triggered audits, accepted generous conditions, anything to avoid deeper investigations. Sometimes public humiliation comes with unexpected financial bonuses. I sold the house. There were too many ghosts lurking around the rooms. I moved to an apartment in the center, with panoramic windows and no trace of ancient life. On the first night, alone, I cried to the throat hurt. In the second, I slept better than in recent years. Victoria contacted about a month later. We meet in a quiet cafeteria, away from the places we knew. I knew, she confessed bluntly, not immediately, but over time. I realized he would always leave you the next month. I said dryly, I always had an excuse to postpone. Always has. She was different. The shine had erased. The family did not forgive her. The brothers barely spoke to her. Over time, they will overcome, I said, without satisfaction in their pain. Why did you do that? He asked. I could have spoken to him in particular. I thought of the question. For years, I was a victim of gaslighting, trained to doubt myself. I needed witnesses, I admitted, and to be honest, I thought you deserved to know who you got involved with. She nodded slowly. The videos of that night are still on the internet. My lawyer says they will probably never disappear completely. I know. A break. I am really sorry. No need, she cut, and for a moment I saw a flash of the old confidence. It was humiliating, but necessary. He grimaced. Did you know he did the same thing to me? It made me doubt my memory. I controlled me all the time. We said goodbye with an uncomfortable hand grip that unintentionally became a quick hug, a second of solidarity between two survivors of the same manipulator. Mikhail tried to contact several times after divorce, first with anger, then with manipulation. Finally, with tears and promises of change, I remained silent. Some finals do not ask for dialogue. Svetlana insisted on organizing a 35-year party. I resisted, until she argues, it's exactly 1 year off that night. Take this date back. Make it yours, not theirs. And that's what I did. I booked a small restaurant, nothing like Vactorbit, of course, and invited only those who were by my side in the darkest year, the work team that defended me from the gossip, the doctor, our mental psychologist who helped me cross the pain without haste, my mother, who flying every month just to sit with me in silence when words failed. It was late when, between laughs and conversations, my phone lit up with an unknown message. You were right in everything. I'm in therapy now. I don't ask for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. I showed Svetlana, who expected my reaction. Well for him, he said, keeping his cell phone without answering. And luck for those who love him later, isn't it curious? She asked about Mikhail. No, and it was no joke. My investigation phase was over. In fact, I stopped thinking about it weeks ago. The anger that sustained me during the divorce burned until it turned ashes, leaving something unexpected behind, peace. Not yet happiness, but a firm stillness, the certainty that I would find her again. Later, that night, I stayed on the balcony of my apartment, watching the city's lights. My grandmother's necklace, the same as I wore that night at the restaurant, reflected the moonlight, a reminder of the woman who survived her own storms and came out stronger. Do you regret public confrontation? They ask me often. Wouldn't you like to have acted with more dignity? They do not understand. Dignity was not in the explosion. It was in what came later, in the no excuses, refusal to make me smaller to fit the lives of others. Sometimes I think of the woman I saw in the mirror the eve of everything changed, that hard, concentrated look that I barely recognized. She saved me. It was not born of hatred, but from the self-respect. Suffocated for too long. I no longer need revenge. But I will never forget what she taught me, that under my ability to love there is an equal force to demand justice, and that the truth, as late as it is, always comes to light like water, as breath, as freedom.